I've played more Halo than any other game in my life, and it's not close. I built a channel around it, I traveled to tournaments and competed, and I've put hundreds to thousands of hours on every single Halo title. I have never personally been faced with a more difficult challenge than this. Halo 5 has a ton of maneuvers that allow for some crazy movement options, and if Halo 5 is not your jam, that's okay. I still think you should stick around to see how difficult this challenge is. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, there's no way that this is more challenging than, say, this Halo 3 obstacle course, that's okay too. You should recommend that to me in the comments, because maybe I'll make a video about that. This video is about Halo 5, but I love all Halos, okay? So we don't need to get weird about it. I played, streamed, competed, and uploaded Halo 5 for 5 years as my full-time job. So it's an understatement to say that I have a ton of time on this game. I also had a huge emphasis on movement in my time playing. I would always try to learn the most advanced mechanics and try to learn all the craziest jumps on all of the maps. As a result, when Halo Infinite came out and removed some of those movement options, I never really stopped playing Halo 5. There was never another game that could really scratch that movement itch. So I started running some obstacle courses for fun sometimes. If I was ever watching something on my second monitor and I just wanted something to do with my hands, I would hop on Halo 5 Forge and run some custom-made obstacle courses. The same way a CS player might surf for fun, I would do this. I'd go to the server browser, search obstacle course, find one, and play through it, just to scratch that movement itch. Until one day I came across a map that was really fun and really challenging. See, most of these obstacle courses, while enjoyable, weren't very long and weren't very challenging. But this one was different. After I completed the map, I immediately went to the Forgers page and tried to see if they had made any other obstacle courses like it, because this one was the best one I had found yet. The Forger's name was Zezno, and I have to give a huge shout out to Zezno, because they have provided me with so many more hours of Halo 5 entertainment that I never thought that I would get. It turns out, Zezno has made several Halo 5 obstacle courses, so I immediately downloaded every last one of them. If you want to give these a try yourself, and you play on PC, then you're in luck because it's completely free. All you have to do is download Halo 5 Forge, which I've linked down below, search up Zezno in the file browser, bookmark it, and there you go, you're good to go. If you're still playing on Xbox, just look up Zezno. All these maps are available. Boom! Now you can play too. Zezno had made several obstacle courses and had even taken the time to put in the description the difficulty rating of each course. They also made an accompanying game type so you can play them with the intended settings. It was a dream come true. It was a huge pack of extra new Halo 5 content that I got to enjoy for months. Or maybe even years. These maps aren't just difficult to navigate, they are thoughtfully crafted, each with a unique aesthetic and identity. Zezno even took the time to hide multiple soda cans around all of these maps as an extra little Easter egg. I cannot say enough good things about these maps. Most of them feature a 3-section structure that allows you to hit checkpoints as you complete each part of the map. As you can imagine, these maps mostly get more difficult the further you get along, but some sections I find easier than others. Sometimes the beginning section is the hardest, sometimes it's the middle, and sometimes it's the last. It just depends. Naturally, being the competitive guy that I am, I decided I was going to complete every single one of these obstacle courses, cause, well, I had them, and why not? As I mentioned, each one of these maps has a difficulty rating, ranging from easy, medium, medium hard, hard, and there's only one map that is ranked very hard. And let me tell you, it is very fucking hard. Going through all the easiest maps first, I had plenty of challenges, but I never really had too much trouble completing them. Once you start getting into the hard batch of maps, they started pushing back a little bit. Maps like Arid, Czar, and Foundry gave me a lot of trouble to get through, but none of them hold a candle to Remains. The Soul map ranked very hard. I've completed every other map that Zezno has made, except for Remains. The thing is, I've been doing this whole hopping on and surfing for like 4 years, and I've tried Remains hundreds of times, and I've never once completed it. I actually looked this up on YouTube to see if anybody else had had a similar experience. It turns out Zezno has a YouTube channel, but they didn't make a video on Remains, so I guess I'll have to be the one to do it. I've been wanting to make some version of this video for years because I wanted to give Zezno a huge shout out for making all these incredible maps, but I ultimately wanted to just kind of showcase some of these amazing map designs. But the thing was, I knew that in order to make a satisfying narrative, I would have to finally beat this one map that I could never do. I can get through the beginning and the middle section with no problem, but I have never been able to complete the final section of this map. So I'm dedicating this video to finally completing Remains. I will not let it defeat me any longer. I don't care how long it's going to take me, I will get it done. I will complete this map. For those unfamiliar, let's quickly get you acquainted with Halo 5's movement options. You have walk, crouch, sprint, clamber, thrust, stabilize, Spartan charge, and ground pound. Simple enough, right? Except combinations of all of these movements provide far more in-depth options. If what you're seeing me do seems like it's easy, just remember, I legitimately have about 8,000 hours on this game. Some of the important movement combinations include sprinting and thrusting into a jump for extra distance and momentum, stabilizing after any jump to increase distance or height if you do it early, thrust sliding, which allows you to carry your thrust momentum with you on the ground, spring jumping, a frame perfect combo releasing crouch and jump on the same frame gives you a greatly increased height on your jump, stabilize and ground pound canceling to double your thrust and increase your overall distance available on a jump. Starting and canceling these movements also provide more finite control on your Spartan. The more time you spend, the more control you have. There are many more movement options, of course, but these are the ones you'll see me use the most in these obstacle courses. And now that we have a good idea of what our Spartan's capable of, it's time to conquer remains. I mentioned before that a lot of Zezno's maps are broken down into 3 sections, and Remains is one of those maps, so let's break it down a section at a time. Starting off in section 1, the very first jump of the entire course is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is jump this gap and get pushed up from the fan below to make it to the platform across the way. And you can actually see where the checkpoint to section number 2 is from here, but we're not able to access it quite yet. We're gonna have to go through and come back around. So we push the button, we walk through the door, and then we walk past the dead guy before we see the actual first obstacle ahead. There's these loose pipes on the wall that of course are going to fall the moment we jump on them, so we'll just have to be quick and make some quick work of them to make it up to the catwalk above. So far so easy, no big deal. Next we're going to have to crouch jump into this vent and quickly run across it so we can jump across to these little wall jumps and make it down to another falling pipe below before we... So we catch the pipe below, and then we jump across and thrust, stabilize, and make sure we get a clamber to this lower catwalk down here. We're able to take a breather for a second and assess what our next obstacle is. First, we have to push a button to activate a temporary platform that we'll use to push a second button to activate another temporary platform that we'll use to jump and thrust. A well-timed jump off the second platform will allow you to do a falling thrust slide underneath this railing and make it across to this far catwalk over here. Next, we simply have to follow this clockwise motion around the wall, jumping on these falling pipes and making it up to the catwalk above us. Clambers are not going to do here because if the pipes start to fall, you're not going to be able to make it to the next one. So landing accuracy is extremely important in this section. But alright, hey, that went pretty smoothly, and now we're up on the catwalk. Working our way down the hall, we find ourselves back to the starting point. Now all we have to do is do a long jump across the gap, and we've made our first checkpoint. Sure. Anytime we die, we can just use this ladder to get right back up and start again at section number 2. Now section 2 is pretty different than section 1. Zezno actually planned something pretty clever for this part that didn't appear in any of his other maps. There is no sprint. We're going back to the classics. If you're taking any damage at all in Halo 5, you are unable to activate your sprint. So in this section, you are in sub-zero temperatures, which means you are taking damage directly to your health. And as that's happening at a consistent rate, you are unable to sprint. The moment you enter the freezer, your health is beginning to decline, so you are on a timer. We jump up onto this cryopod here and then jump up to this pipe up against the wall. After we strafe out slightly and jump across to the other pipe, we'll do that one more time to get on top of these boxes in the corner. From here, a well-timed jump thrust will get us into the vent, and I'm dead. A well-timed jump thrust will get us into the vent before we freeze and drop down onto the stack before we jump over these shelves and chill out next to the bonfire for a minute and get our health back. Our next obstacle is extremely similar to the previous one. We're going to go through a freezer, jump around on some stuff, and make it up to a vent in the corner. Only this one is a lot more difficult than the first room that we just did. Entering the freezer, we will start jumping on these shelves and following these around the walls in the room in a counterclockwise motion. If you don't mess any of these jumps up, this can go by pretty quickly. But if you do mess it up, well, you know. After we nail all our jumps and make it up to the next vent, we'll quickly push through before we freeze to death and drop down to another bonfire. That wasn't too bad, right? I think the second section is probably the easiest in this map, at least it gives me the least amount of trouble. After getting past the spooky hallways, we activate the second checkpoint, and just like that, we are at the third section. And then there's section 3. Zezno has made some terribly difficult sections in some of his maps. Some that have taken me literal hours to develop strategies just to try to beat them. before eventually figuring out how to do it and then actually beating it. You guys gotta think, when you're watching me jump through these maps now, I've spent hundreds or thousands of attempts, so I've developed strategies on how I find the most consistent way to overcome these obstacles. I'm talking about what jumps to use, where to jump from, when to use your thrust, when to use your stabilize, how to preserve your momentum. I've developed strategies on how to get through all these sections through trial and error. I'm talking thousands of attempts. Some obstacles you have to face straight up, some have multiple ways to overcome them, and some you can just avoid altogether if you get really smart about it. But I cannot stress enough that as hard as I might have tried to find out some alternate method that lets me cheese this section, I have figured out nothing. This section is a motherfucker. I don't know what kind of rage-fueled sadistic forge session that Zezno was on when he made this, but I personally feel made victim by it. To start off on the third section, you have to approach what I would consider to be a pretty fitting finale start. It's a drop down into a pit. A descent into madness, if you want to think of it that way. If you drop properly and have a well-timed jump at the bottom, you can thrust out, and hopefully you can make it, and you can make it, and you can make, and you can get to the platform down below, where you'll probably spend the rest of your Halo 5 life.
You're gonna die in there.
But I suppose you can at least relax a bit and take in the miserable ass vibe of this map. I suppose it's fitting. We wouldn't want the vibe from, say, Coast for the final challenge. It's supposed to feel like despair. I'm in a pit of death and I don't think I have a way out. It feels bad. The entire vibe of this map feels bad. Like everything seems foul and hopeless. And I gotta say, for years, that has been my relationship with this map exactly. It's not fun to be on, and it's not fun to lose over and over and over. It feels bad, and it feels like it's mocking you in a sense. Now we get to try our best to push a button and activate a temporary platform on the catwalk above. After some extremely difficult wall jumps, if we time them correctly, we can get the height and momentum required to make it up to the temporary platform and on the catwalk above. And then ultimately, we'll need to jump from the catwalk into that vent up there. This is so much harder than it seems. I can't explain to you enough that this is what I'm talking about when I said I usually find out some sort of consistent method that I can execute to get to these spots on these maps, but not this one. I might get up to the catwalk 1 in every 10 tries. It might even be 1 in every 20. When I first started playing this map, this is as far as I could get. I couldn't even make it up to the catwalk. I would try and try and try, and I would never make it up to the catwalk. If this interests you and it's something you're watching and thinking, I can do that, I so highly encourage you to download this and try it yourself. I promise you, this is a lot harder than it looks. It must have taken me months before I made it up to the catwalk a single time. And then when I did, I missed my jump across to the vent. Back down to the button you go. And that's the thing, I kept getting to this point, I couldn't even get into the vent or see what goes beyond that. Who knows what horrors lie ahead through that vent? This had me pretty discouraged. Initially I just said, fuck that map, I won't play that one. I can beat all the other ones and a lot of them are pretty fun. When I talked about surfing and how that's supposed to kind of be a relaxing thing to do, this was the opposite of that. I did not relax and have fun. I just got mad. I'm done, I'm fucking done. I'm sorry. I'm off, this is what I mean about this fucking passion project video, bro. This shit, God. But there's just a part of me that couldn't accept that this map could get the best of me. If you told me, someone who spent so much time playing Halo 5, that hey, I bet you I can make an obstacle course that's so hard you can't complete it, I would have told you you're wrong. I would have told you I absolutely can, and I'm way too determined to let you win. And that's kind of what Zezno did. He made a map that was so hard, I straight up couldn't beat it. But I want you to know, Zezno, as hard as I found this section to be, and this whole map in its entirety, I sincerely appreciate you for making it. I found these obstacle courses and essentially treated it like it was a classic Super Mario Bros. Game. It's just a straight up platformer that, as you got through the levels, everything got a little more difficult. All you have to do is make it to the end of the course, and you move on to the next one. It's a simple concept. I started with the easiest rating, and I moved my way all the way up to the hardest. And since I'm at the most difficult rated map, and I'm at the final section, it's very fitting that it is by far the most challenging section of them all. It very much acts like a final boss. And I gotta tell you, Zezno, you made a hell of a final boss. I have to imagine while being super proud of their work, Zezno has to feel a little bit sad that nobody was probably ever going to play this, or ever be able to actually complete it. Now look, there could be plenty of people that have beat this map. I have no idea. I've looked on the internet and I haven't found anything else about it. As a creator, it's gotta feel good to know that you might have created a challenge that was so good nobody could do it, but there's gotta be a part of you that wants somebody to be able to beat it. I would imagine there's a part of you that wants to think that somebody did it, that somebody was able to complete it, and that somebody can truly appreciate the work that went into these obstacles that you created. But there's no real incentive to do it. There's no cash prize, there's no ranking, there's not even a leaderboard. It's just a Halo 5 custom game. The only satisfaction of doing it would be knowing that you did it. There's no real incentive for a gamer to not just throw up their hands and say, "Fuck this is way too hard, I'm not having fun." A much less stubborn gamer would simply accept this and move on with their life. Oh my god. And I want you to know, Zezno, that your time building this wasn't wasted. That all these hours you spent in figuring out the most difficult obstacles to overcome does not go unnoticed and does not go unappreciated. If you're fortunate enough to make it up to the catwalk and make it into the vent without falling, you are now faced with the real final challenge. As we walk to the end of the vent, we see a big fan room, but this is not a fan like at the beginning that's gonna help you. If you fall, it's all over. We see a door that's blocked off by a bunch of bars, and we see two vents, one labeled 1 and one labeled 2. Now, making the transition jump from one of these vents to the other is a lot harder than it looks. Because you're crouched, you have to jump late out of the vent to make sure to not hit your head on the ceiling. And then you have to have the right angle so you can fall into the next vent while remaining crouched. It's a tiny vent, it's a tiny window. It is very easy to mess up. And since it takes me maybe 1 in every 20 tries to get up here in the first place, if you fall on one of these silly little jumps, it is extremely discouraging. Now, after months of only being able to make it up to the vent maybe 1 in every 40 attempts, I decided to do a little snooping. I decided to see what it would take for me to get to the end of the map when I do make it up there. So, since we're on Halo 5 Forge, I opened the map up in the Forge building mode, and I was able to go take a deeper look at what lies ahead. So I find out that I need to jump from the starting vent to the first vent and press a button. Then I need to go from the first vent back to the starting vent and then across to the second vent to press a second button. If you do this successfully, all the bars that are guarding the final door will actually be open. And that is the final door. All I have to do is get to that bottom door right there, and I'm done. But the thing is, while there's tons of opportunity for you to mess up any of these jumps, including these wall jumps that lead you up to the second button, those are super easy to mess up as well. You find out that actually when you press the first button, you're on a 30-second timer. And after that 30 seconds, the bars that you just opened are going to close yet again. So not only do you have an extremely difficult string of jumps that you have to nail, you're on a very tight time crunch. And there it is. Now I know what I have to do. The next time I go in there in the actual game type, I will be more prepared for when I make it up to the vent. I'll know exactly what's required of me, and all I have to do is execute it. So I went back in feeling more confident and more prepared than ever. No, I didn't. I don't know what it's like watching, if you're somebody that didn't play a lot of Halo 5, or just watching me run through these as a viewer and thinking, well, it really doesn't look that hard, but I promise you it is. I will tell you again, please download this and try it yourself. I did not feel more confident knowing what was ahead. If anything, I felt more concerned with how difficult it was truly going to be. I have had the script for this video half written for months. I have had the idea for this video for literal years. Ever since I started uploading to this channel again, I've been actively working on this project. At least 3 hours a week, I have dedicated to trying to beat this map so I can make this video. This video is a passion project. This is something I've wanted to do forever. I've gotten to do everything in Halo 5 that I ever wanted, but this one thing just kept eating at me. This is the one thing that I wasn't able to do. I was making it up to the catwalk at about the same rate. I never did find a consistent method for getting up there, but when I did make it up to the catwalk, I was making it count. I was probably making it into the vent across the way about 70% of the time. And then getting from the starting vent to the first vent, I was probably making that jump about 40% of the time. When I was ready to press the first button, I would always make sure that my in-game clock was either at double zeros or at an even 30. This way I could glance down and have a pretty good idea of how much time was left on my 30-second timer. Now at this point, all bets were off. Sometimes I would make it back to the starting vent and then fall trying to get to the second vent, and sometimes I wouldn't even make the jump back to the starting vent at all. Again, these are really tough jumps that are super easy to mess up, and you don't just get to start back where you were, you have to start all the way back at the initial spawn point. But about 2 weeks ago, I pressed the button and was able to make it not only back to the starting vent, but actually all the way to the second vent. This is the farthest I have ever gotten. All I need to do now is hit my wall jumps, press the second button, make it back, and jump through the final door. My heart was racing. I made it up to the second button and had about 10 seconds to spare. When I was crawling through the vent, I noticed I was down to the last 3 seconds, and I panicked. I thought I didn't have time to make it back to the starting vent, which gives me a much better line at making the final jump necessary to get to the final door, so I just tried to jump from here, and I didn't even come close. Although I was super upset that I failed, I knew that if I could find myself in that position one more time, that I wouldn't panic. I knew all I needed to do was stay calm and execute the jumps. Which actually brings me to yesterday. I was trying to figure out what my next video project's gonna be, and I've got a couple in the works. But I thought I'll hop on and try to run through remains like I've been doing every week for months, just to see how it would go, because you never know. Well, I was pretty sure that I wasn't actually going to complete it, but some days I get through the first 2 sections in 20 minutes, and some days it only takes me about 10. But yesterday, I got to the 3rd section in just 5 minutes. Oh yeah, we were feeling good. Made it up to the catwalk with ease, and I actually made my jump across to the first vent. I pressed the button when the clock hit double zeros, and I went to work. I actually made my jump back to the first vent, and I made my jump back to the second vent. I thrusted through the crawl space to make sure I saved myself as much time as possible, and went to work on hitting my wall jumps. After hitting my wall jumps, I realized that I only had about 10 seconds to spare before I needed to get back to the final door. But that was the last time I was going to look at the clock. I took a mental note of my time and thought, there is no benefit to looking again. Your time available is your time available. Just get through it. I knew if it were going to be possible for me, I needed to not look again. I wasn't going to panic like last time. In Halo 5, like in many other games, you can catch what we call flow state. It's when your mind and your body are working in perfect harmony and you don't even have to think. You just do. So I went for it. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! I fucking did it! Dude, I fucking did it! Oh my fucking god! Oh my god, I fucking did it! I fucking did it! After years of trying, I fucking did it. I cannot describe to you how satisfying of a feeling this was. If you have made it this far in the video, I am damn near begging you to please give this a shot for yourself. I would always look back on Halo 5 and be extremely proud of my resume. It provided me with some of the biggest challenges I ever faced in gaming. From trying and ultimately succeeding in reaching the absolute top rank you can online, averaging the most perfect kills per game in the world, traveling and competing in tournaments only to get smacked and then trying to get back up on that horse and go get a good placement to sort of validate the skill that I thought that I had, and growing a YouTube channel and fulfilling my dream of becoming a sort of famous Halo player. But see, anybody who's already familiar with me probably knows something about that. Because I've broadcast so much of this journey with my channel and my stream, there's a very open honesty there. But nobody knew that this obstacle course was proving too much for me to overcome, and I could keep that a secret. I never had to say out loud that this obstacle course was too much for me, and I simply couldn't do it. Nobody would ever know. Except for me. And that's too much. I wish I were kidding when I say that if I had never completed this obstacle course, I would go to my grave feeling a little bit like shit about it. But I don't have to feel that way anymore, because no matter how hard it might have been, and no matter how long it took me, I refused to quit. I have a tattoo that says, "No more half measures." It's a reminder to not just do something halfway or just good enough, but to truly give everything you all, no matter how silly or irrelevant it may seem. Just be honest and do your very best, and then you won't have anything to regret. I won't have to look back and think, oh, I probably could have beat that map if I tried hard enough. Now I know I could beat that map because I did try hard enough. Halo 5 is a special game. I recognize that it's not everybody's favorite, but it taught me so much about life and so much about pushing myself to my actual limits. I am very thankful for Halo 5, and I'm very thankful to Zezno for creating this challenge for me. It's 2025. Halo 5 is almost 10 years old. and it's still providing me with real value. I don't take that for granted. Please give this map a try if it interests you. Give all of Zezno's maps a run through because they're really, really amazing, and they deserve your time. They deserve to have people experience them. This was a passion project for me. I mentioned before that I wanted to make this video for years, and I am so happy I have finally gotten the opportunity to do it. I'm not sure if I'll ever make another Halo 5 video again. This feels like a proper level of closure that I've been looking for with it. It's been one hell of a ride, Halo 5. You truly changed my life. If you've made it this far and you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. It would mean a whole lot. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you again to Zezno for creating this challenge for me. Take care, much love.